Welcome to the Pony Pundits for Friday, May 29th. Big show for you guys today. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late. We're running on Gulfstream Park clock, a couple minutes behind post, but still way behind the schedule they do for post time. Joined with my co-host, Mr. Sig Las Vegas. You can follow him on Twitter at Sig Las Vegas. And by popular demand, we got to bring back the show off. First time on the show last week, not only did he hit the pick 4, he hit it twice just to show us up. You know, finally, Sig, me and you both hit a pick 4 on the same show, and that would have been cause for celebration in itself. But no, this guy's got to, be a jerk and hit it twice. Second time he hit it on a $4 ticket. Mr. Jeff Zidek, professional track announcer. How you doing today, Jeff?
My goal in life is to just make you upset, and I think I did a pretty good job of it last week, Marco.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. That and the endless text all day on Saturday. As soon as the race was over, I got a text saying, and I'll use a 4-letter word that rhymes with luck, and says, now I got to go buy an Hawaiian ugly shirt. And but you didn't wear one today. What happened?
I just couldn't do that to myself or in my closet. I couldn't do that. I'm sorry. I tried. I couldn't
be
do
honest.
It.
The wife shut that down.
She would have. She would have. Yeah, she would have. But most people with good taste would have. But it's not a good look for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess you have to be a little wider to really get the real estate of an ugly shirt going. Sig, a lot of news and notes this week, and I don't know where to begin, but I'm going to let you take it away. This is our, as I named this segment, straight from the horse's mouth, from the horse's ass. So take it away, and I'll jump in and have some comments and on some of the news and notes, because it's a very interesting week this week.
Marco, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. It was a really rough week this week for Bob Baffert. First, yesterday morning, they all went out for a 4-furlong work. When they brought him back in and checked him out, they found a fracture in the front left collar and the front left leg. It had to have 2 screws inserted. Unfortunately, the undefeated Nadal and probably your Kentucky Derby favorite is being retired to stud. Lucky for the horse, unlucky for his connections.
Yeah, I can relate to this injury, not personally myself, but one of my best horses I ever had, and Jeff's familiar with that horse, Winning Skylight. This is an injury that is very common in thoroughbred racing. It is a very rare injury in harness racing because of the difference of gait with horses harness racing. We're pacing or trotting. In my example, I have a pacer, Winning Skylight, back in the day. In horses, thoroughbreds gallop, and that's why this injury occurs a lot on the front. You put so much weight on these front legs of these animals. But in Winning Skylight's case, she had an injury 3 or 4 starts before her career ended. And in that start, she was sitting in a 2-hole. And Jeff, if we've seen so many times in harness racing, sometimes the 2-hole is noted as the garden spot in racing, get that pocket trip. But if that horse on the front end starts to stop on you and you're locked in and you're full of horse with a lot of pace and can't get out, you're in a bad situation. And that's what happened to Winning Skylight. She was in a bad spot. Jockey had to double her up, and by doubling her up, I mean had to grab on the lines. She made a break, and when a harness horse goes on a break, as you know, Jeff, they then emulate the stride of a thoroughbred because they are galloping. Well, that's when the injury occurred. We did not know it. She came back her final 2 races at the Meadows, and this injury occurs above the ankle and goes up the cannon bone. Well, actually, it goes down the cannon bone towards the ankle. And what happens with this is it's a very thin fracture, but if it spirals, you're in big trouble. And fortunately for Winning Skylight and for Nadal, it didn't totally spiral, because if that thing would have, you can't fix it. The horse ends up being put down. In this instance, screws will fix it. But in Winning Skylight's case, to talk about how gutty this horse was, her next to last start of her career, she wins in the Invite. And as you obviously, Jeff, that's top class for the filly and mares, at my home track, the Meadows. We got to the winner's circle, and we're all happy, all smiling for the pitcher. And my driver, who I think is one of the best horsemen still to this day at the Meadows, Bill Zent, said to us, guys, I know she won tonight, but she wasn't herself. And we x-rayed her that week, took the x-rays, didn't find anything. She jogged sound all week. We put her back into race. She wins again the following week. And when we come back to the winner's circle, Bill said once again, hey, guys, she was worse this week. I know she won. She beat the best horses at the Meadows 2 starts in a row. And my driver's telling me there's something wrong with the horse. So at that point, because they couldn't find a specialty clinic, and we did at the time, and we're going way back in the day, Jeff, and we used Jack Leonard's imaging machine, where they put an isotope in the horse that actually, it's radioactive, and it then showed where that hairline was. And fortunately for us, we caught it, put the screws in, kept her for broodmare, and didn't have her break down in a race and have to be put down. But it just goes to show how fragile these horses can be. But yet, when you get those special horses, how many horses would win, with an injury like that? And how sharp is, my jockey at the time, to know that, in winning a race, she wasn't right, and probably saved her life. So, my condolences go out to Nadal. There is a chance that the horse could come back to racing if they wanted to. That has been, Baffert put that out there today, but they have no need. The horse is undefeated. He's got the reputation. He's going to make a ton of money at stud. And personally, I could tell you, if there is an afterlife and you can come back as an animal, I want to come back as a world champion thoroughbred and just, graze in a pasture and service 200 mares a year. And I'll be fine with that. Go ahead. You can continue the news and notes now, Sig, with that image in your mind.
All right. Well, guys, we are getting back to normal here a little bit with racing. The Maryland Racing Commission approved Laurel Park to begin racing tomorrow. They're going to run a 28-day meet that's going to run on Fridays and Saturdays all summer long through August 22nd. Mountaineer Park in Chester, West Virginia comes back on Sunday, the 31st. Belmont Park, New York Racing Association, comes back on this Wednesday, June 3rd. And the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club's coming back a week earlier than they originally planned, as they will open their meet on July 10th and run races on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through Labor Day, which will end up being a 4-day weekend for them, with 10 races every Friday and Sunday, 11 races on Saturdays. Marco, I know you're familiar with Del Mar.
Yeah, this is the thing, and it's going to be sad this year if Del Mar, and probably we're going to be looking at no spectators, as most of the tracks around the country are right now. There is no track that opening day at Del Mar. This is honestly, for me, of all the sporting events that we're going to be talking about with no fans and everything else, this is the one that hits me close to home. I've been doing Del Mar opening day for several years. There is nothing like it. It's such a spectacle. And I'll tell you right now, let's put it on the calendar. Pony Pundits, live from Del Mar next summer, opening day. Let's go out there. Let's, do a show. We'll figure out a way to do a show from there. And, Jeff, if you can put it on your schedule, this is an absolute...
I better hit some more pick threes.
It's a bucket list thing to do. Opening day at Del Mar. The track is incredible. The place is packed for opening day. It's I know they have the Pacific Classic there. There's so many different races, the big races that go on there during the summer. But that opening day, the fans, and Jeff, the stigma with horse racing is it's an old man's sport, and the old people are dying. We need new fans. That's not the case at Del Mar. It is a young, hip crowd, and let me tell you, the eye candy there at Del Mar, bring your shades and put the blinders on, because your head's going to be on a swivel looking back and forth. We'll need a blind bridle for sure, Jeff, and a head pole on each side to keep focused at the task at hand. But, I've said it many times, it was probably, I am a diabetic, and I swear that's what happened. There was so much eye candy there that opening week. That's whenever I developed my diabetes, and the first time I went to Del Mar on opening day. So let's put that on the schedule for next year. And Jeff, you are definitely invited to join us for opening weekend at Del Mar. It'll be a great time. You are literally 3 minutes from the beach. The track overlooks the beach. When you're sitting in the grandstand, you're seeing the beach in the background. There's nothing like it. Great restaurants, and the three of us do love to eat. I know two of us, obviously, you can tell that by our sizes, but as I said in last week's show, this skinny little asshole here can eat just as much right with us, so you will enjoy it as well. So that's it. Anything else, Sig, on news and notes?
I got a couple more here. My favorite, Del Mar's your favorite place. Keeneland, my favorite track, is going to run a special 5-day meet this summer to make up for the April spring meet that was canceled. They're going to run from July 8th to 12th, replacing those dates from April. During that 5-day meet, they're going to run 10 graded stakes, including the Kentucky Derby Prep, the Bluegrass Stakes, on that Saturday. So looking forward to that's going to be a great 5 days of racing. Hopefully we'll get good weather. And as I said, it was a bad week for Bob Baffert. In other Baffert news, 2 Baffert horses that ran at Oaklawn Park on Arkansas Derby Day came back with a positive drug test this week for the drug lidocaine. The horses were Charlatan and Gamine, who actually ran an allowance that day. Usually those tests are kept confidential, but information was leaked that there was a positive test. They're going to go out and test a second sample, which is usually nothing's announced till then. But Oaklawn Park's promised that they're going to get this done expeditiously, because we do have the Belmont coming up, and now with Nadal being retired to stud, Charlatan might be Bob Baffert's best hope coming up for the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm going to kick it to you for a second. If you could explain to our listeners what Sig was talking about with a second test. And this is the standard practice whenever something comes back. If a sample was cloudy or they did discover something, when they take the samples, they split them, correct? And
yes.
They keep that second one. And explain that process. And then when you're done, I'm going to explain the drug and what it does and why this is it's a bad positive.
Well, you take when they collect the sample, again, as you said, they split it because it's going to be tested by a racing commission lab. And so the commission then, again, if a trainer gets a positive test, they're going to question the results. And so they would like to be able to have a second opinion. It's just like anything else medically, you want that second opinion. And so they take that split sample, the other half of the sample, and then it gets tested by a different lab. And so then if those two labs agree on what they find, then the horseman has really not much recourse left at this point. But there are times where one lab will say there's one substance, one lab will say a substance isn't there.
Yeah, and the thing of the being confidential is they generally don't let this out until that second sample has been tested. But because of the nature of the big name trainer and the big name horse, somebody leaked it to someone in the press who ran with the story, and then Twitter was a buzz. Now, for those talking about two things I want to point out in drug testing. One is people think that whenever they do a drug test, they're going to find whatever drug is there. That's not the case. The way the drug tests go is they can only find what they are looking for. So they have there's a set list of, banned substances that they are looking for. But sometimes there are substances that, in this game, unfortunately, might be new and the racing commission doesn't know of yet, and it gets through because they didn't do a specific test for that. That's one way that things go by the wayside. But with this particular drug, lidocaine, this is something that's commonly used. It's mostly used in a topical salve or solution where you're rubbing it on a sore area. And some places will let you use it, but you have to have so many hours out of a race before you can use it, because it is a numbing agent. It's almost like a nerve block. It's also, vets will use it sometimes when they're trying to find lameness on a horse. Horses can't tell you where they're hurting. You can see, and a good horseman will say, hey, my horse is off left front. Okay, is it left front? Is it the ankle? Is it the pastern? Is it a suspensory? Where's the injury? They can tell you that. A lot of times, vets will have you take the horse, they'll numb a certain area, and have you take the horse out on the lead and run it down the shed road, run it back, and they'll look. If the horse is sound after they applied that to a certain area, then the veterinarian knows, okay, that's the area where the problem is, and that's where they do the extensive x-rays.
And Mark, what that usually works from the bottom up. So, as you said, the horses can't tell you where they're sore. You know that there's a problem in the left front leg. So you start out with the lidocaine at the top of the foot, at numbness from the top of the foot down. If the horse goes out there and is perfect, then you know it's the foot. If the horse is still sore, you work your way out, because the pain will work, the medication will work from the top down. So then you numb the ankle. If the horse is still sore, then you know it's above the ankle, it's a knee or higher up yet. So yeah, they'll start at the bottom and work their way up.
Good point. Thanks for doing that, Jeff. I knew that, but let our listeners know. Now, the reason why this is such a bad drug, if he did use this in the race, it is not so much, yes, it'd be a performance-enhancing drug, but more so because obviously if the horse doesn't feel pain, he's going to race better. So something's bothering him. But the fact that you're using such a highly numbing agent means the horse has a pretty significant problem that you're trying to address. And for the safety of not only the horse, but the jockey that is riding that horse and anybody that's in behind that horse in the race, the reason you cannot have this is because, yes, the horse doesn't feel it. So if the horse has possibly, as we talked about with Nadal, a hairline fracture, the horse is naturally going to protect himself somewhat. He's going to feel that pain and ease up, whatever. A horse that doesn't feel the pain won't, and a horse can break down in a race, and then you could have a horrific accident involving the horse going down with a bad break. And I know, Jeff, we had a bad wreck the other night in harness race in Northfield in Ohio, but that was a broken equipment incident that caused the accident, and lucky nobody got the one jockey did get seriously injured, but we're talking life-threatening could have been in that accident. And that's where it's at, why this is such a big problem. So if he does test positive on the second one, it's going to be hard for Bob to, dance out of this particular positive. Jeff, you have anything you want to add?
The whole thing is just bizarre to me. It defies logic, because if the horse... lidocaine is a drug that has been, as you said, used by everyone for different reasons, not anything illegal. It's used for diagnostic purposes. It's used to help minor pain or more major pain, but on horses that aren't racing. Lidocaine is tested for, and everybody knows that, and that's where this just defies logic for me. You're not going to slip lidocaine past a test. I don't see that happening. Every jurisdiction tests for it. Every jurisdiction is looking for it. So to me, the whole thing, and I'm not in favor of Bob Baffert. I'm not saying I'm against Bob Baffert. Let's take the trainer out of the equation. Whoever the trainer is, any trainer that gets a lidocaine positive, to me, it just defies logic, because it's something they're testing for. So I think there's going to be a little more to this story, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Anything else, Sig?
That's it for news and notes this week.
All right, and I just want to remind everybody, daily shows at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, 2 shows per day, live every day, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern, catch a show, and 3 p.m. Eastern, catch a show, and of course, the Pony Pundits every Friday, and as we've done the last 2 weeks, it's been the Pony Pundits +1, and he's showed us up, so he's back.
No, that'll end soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, and that's a
When you
great
throw
thing.
these races at me,
Yeah,
watch
okay.
out. Yeah.
And to let everybody know, I let my co-host, Mr. Sig himself, decide the races we're doing each week. Okay. And I say, tell me which one you want to do for the race of the day. What are we doing for the pick four? He sends me the races, and then we go to work. Jeff and I feel strongly the same on maiden races. And, you love maiden races. I don't know, what your infatuation is with them. They will produce some big payouts. There's no question about that, because there is a high level of uncertainty, because a lot of times in the maiden races, you might get a card where you're looking at 10 horses and they're all making their first start. Good luck with that. And as we segue into today's stuff, we're going to go to our race of the day. And at least the race of the day is always a good race. You pick us a nice race, good horses, some of the best race of the day. And this week, the race of the day is at Churchill Downs. It is race 7. It is Winning Color Stakes. And Sig, remind everybody, you put a card up for Churchill every day. Now, I know if some other tracks begin to show up, you're going to stay at Churchill, or are you going to be bouncing around to there in New York? Because I know you love New York racing as well.
Right. Normally this time of year, we hit the Kentucky Derby up, and then I usually jump to Belmont and then Saratoga for the summer. With Churchill reopening, though, and Gulfstream Racing is my favorite place to be over the wintertime. The best horses, the best jockeys, the best trainers all go to Gulfstream from New York, from Kentucky, and all over the East Coast, because we got good weather all winter long down there. You get good racing and the best racing down there. Right now, with the way things are, I normally don't stay at Churchill. We've been having a nice run here at Churchill, but I'm going to take a look at the weather here starting on Wednesday and see if we have. Wednesday, I'll probably be at Belmont for opening day, as long as the weather holds up. And then Thursday through Sunday, going to look at the weather each day, and wherever I got the best shot of getting the turf racing and a decent track, we're going to be either at Belmont or at Churchill this week.
All right. And then, of course, you can follow me. I'm covering Santa Anita on their race days. And then on some of the days that we don't have Santa Anita and they are racing, I've been popping into Charlestown. And to be quite honest, I've owned Charlestown. We hit 2 pick fours last night. Last night was a chalky night, but you know what? Chalky nights, you cash tickets, they're better than tearing them up, Sig. And we made profits on both pick fours and hit our best bet again. So you can check out both Sig and myself for coverage just about every day. You can pick up Sig for $9 a card. Mine are $9 a card. But right now we have a special running on Sig, and I want to let everybody know about that, because this deal is ending on Sunday. And Johnny Detroit kept it up for a few weeks. I told him he's crazy. It's too cheap. But we're finally ending it Sunday, so take advantage of it. If you like our man, the shirt, you want to get his picks, you want to save money, you want to get it all year round. I love horses all year. I bet horses pretty much all year, but I don't have the time to put into them when the other sports are running, because my bread and butter obviously is football, basketball, and so forth. But the summer months, I'm there covering it. You're covering it all year long, Sig, and they can pick up an entire season, an $1,800 value for $299. Who come up with that price?
I wish I knew.
Actually, JD asked me what to do it, and I said, you know what? All he wears is freaking, Hawaiian ugly shirts. How much do those cost? $299. Go ahead and put it out for that. He can get a lifetime supply. $299. You can buy all the ugly shirts in Pittsburgh. I am sure for that amount.
There's a lot of ugly shirts in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you can head down to the south side and get them. So $299. Check it out. In Sig, if you bought if you wanted to be a weekend warrior, what would that come out to if you just bought one card a week?
If you bought one card a week at the regular rate of $9, you're looking at $468 for the year. That's for one card a week. If you pay $299 right now through Sunday, you can get every sheet I do. It's usually 4 to 5 sheets a week, depending on the time of year. But I mean, You can't beat the deal. Even, I mean, I know the price is probably going to go up here after this deal expires this week, but at $2.99 you can't beat it. But play it once a week. If you're a weekend warrior, you play Saturdays, it's still worth it.
Yep,
And then if you decide you want to play during the week, the sheet's there for you.
Absolutely. Check it out and help the Ugly Shark Fund of SIG. All right, SIG, lead it off for us here for race of the day. We're going to race 7, is it? At Churchill Downs?
Yep, the Winning Color Stakes is a grade 3 for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. They're going 6 furlongs on the dirt. In my opinion, this is a 2-horse race. I got like the 8 Mia Mischief. It looks strong in both the races this year, both wins for trainer Steve Asmussen. Ricardo Santana's his go-to jockey is back in the irons, and he's ridden the mare to many wins throughout her career. So I'm pretty sure he knows how to give her a perfect trip. We're going to come to our pick 4 here soon, and she will be my single. The other horse that could give her a little problem in here, though, is the 2, Break Even. It's probably the best pace horse in this field, but I'm thinking the early speed in here may compromise this filly, as Mia will most likely rate, as she does in the past, just off her and take over this race in the stretch. I think the race comes down to these 2 for the win, but there are a few other contenders in here for the exotics and a possible upset that I would like to mention. The 7, Spice Perfection. This mare is making her first start for the Cassie barn after he assumed training duties from Peter Miller. Javier Castellano takes over the ride, and she's put in a bullet work back on May 17th, going 4 furlongs and 47 flat. I think they'll have to rate her as there's too much speed up front, so it's going to depend on what kind of trip that Castellano can work out. And while he's been chilly recently, he's one of the best jocks in the country, so we can't count her out. And then my long shot in here is the 1, Sneaking Out, 12-1 on your morning line. The Jerry Hollendorfer trainees was running in a stakes competition back last year and hit the exacta in all but her final race of 2019, where she faded the 6th in the Torrey Pines at Del Mar. I'm not sure if there was an injury or another issue, but she returned this spring in an allowance at Oaklawn and held on to win the 6 furlong affair. If she improves at all off of that race, she could add value to your exotic tickets or possibly even upset here at a big price.
Good stuff. SIG, how are you seeing this race, Jeff?
I'm seeing it almost exactly the same way as Sig. I just reversed the middle horses. He said 8-2-7. I said 8-7-2-1. Mia Mischief's on a 3-race win streak. Here's a horse that sold for $2.4 million last fall. They're going to get their money back out of this one. They bought her for that kind of money for a reason, and she's certainly showing the talent that you would have expected. Spice Perfection is an interesting one, and it's that bullet work on May 17th that really attracted me. You see, though, May 23rd, not the best workout, but as we talked about last week, you do a faster mile and then you do an easier mile. So that may scare a few people off and help the price a little bit on the 7. I'm not concerned at all about the, I think it was 83rd out of 84 on the workouts for that day. The barn change is a concern for me, but the fact that this horse is also a graded stakes grade 1 stakes winner. This horse won a grade 1 in the past, and this is a significant step down from where that was. Another horse has not been quite as good, but you've got a lot of back class there. And again, that bullet work on the 17th, so I like the 7 a little bit. The 2 break even is going to take a lot of play. 7 wins and 9 lifetime starts. Good inside draw. This horse is going to take a lot of play, and I agree that the 1 is the other one to keep an eye out on. 12-1 morning line, I believe. I wrote down bounce back last time after a clunker, but realized that clunker effort was still a 4th place finish. It was the first and only time in the horse's career it wasn't in the top 2. So the 1's got to be given a look. You're going to spread the money out a little bit underneath. I think the 8 is going to be the solid favorite, but you've got the 2's going to take a decent amount of play. The 1's going to add a little bit of value. I did not use the 1 in my pick 4 ticket that we'll get to, but I think the 1 can be on the exotics underneath, and so I'm at 8-7-2-1 in that race.
All right. Well, we're all in agreement that this is a 2-horse race, but I'm the only one that's going to take the stand and go against Mia Mischief on top. I think the 2-horse is the horse to win in this race. And although it is a 2-horse race, you're looking at a horse, 9 career starts, as you said, Jeff, with 7 wins in a second. And she's coming off her career high speed figure and a wire-to-wire win last time out. This is going to be her 3rd start back since her long layoff. She was They shut her down in August. They brought her back this year. And this is, to me, when you're in the third start off of a layoff, a long extended layoff, the third start is the best in the form cycle. You had that first race where we always say, hey, the horse needed a race. You're always going to see a big improvement in the second race. Well, we saw that. She wins easily. And then the third one, now she's even, going to be even tighter. But what I'm looking at here is Brad Cox is the trainer on this horse. And we got Rosario up for the jock. When these two have hooked up together, they have hit the board 80% of the time. And that's over a sample size of 35 starts. That's insane, okay? And the last thing is, I know Mia Mischief is a model of consistency. She's been first or second in 16 of her 21 career starts. But Sig, you know how many times I say this. She is what she is right now. And she's a damn good horse. There's no question about that. But I don't see her continuing to improve. She's going to be where she's at. I think break even with only 9 career starts, and this being the third in the form cycle, she has a license to step up and have that even better race. And coming off her lifetime best speed performance, I think this horse is on the ascending, where Mia Mischief is already there, but I don't think it's going to go any better than she is. I think the ceiling's higher right now for break even, and I'm going to go there. And I think we're going to get the better price because the public is going to go to Mia Mischief. And it's going to give me a little bit of a better price with this horse, that if she does beat Mia, you'll never get this price again on break even. And that's where I'm at. So I have it 2-8. I do have the 1 as my third horse in the race, that long shot to get in there from the rail. So we pretty much agree when we get to the pick 4, which we're going to jump into next, that I'm going too deep in this race simply because somebody gave me so many maiden races to deal with, and I had to go a little deeper in some of these other races. So let's go ahead and pick 4 sequence. Take us through your pick 4 and just tell us, a couple points on your top horse or second horse in each leg.
All right, Marco. I came up with a $40 ticket here. That's if we don't use the alternate entries, which I will be talking briefly about. I don't know who's going to draw and who isn't, so make sure you guys check the Twitter feed tomorrow. Once we know who's in the race and who isn't, I'll actually have my ticket finalized. But starting out in race number 5, it's a $20,000 maiden claimer going 6 furlongs on the dirt. My top horse in here is the 6, Digital Star. It's a 3-year-old colt out of the factor that's been knocking on the door since last fall. And I think Saturday is going to be the day he finally breaks his maiden. Digital Star had 3 seconds and 2/3 in his past 5 races for Wayne Catalano. Tyler Gaffleone pops aboard on Saturday and should be able to work out a good trip for him. The other horses I looked at using in here are the 4, Don't Need a Name, which kind of is the name. The 5, Time Heist. The 12, For Better or Worse. And then the alternate entry I used in here is the 15, Queen's Mason. So if draws in here, I'm going to have the 15 on the ticket. So, but if any of these other ones scratch out, the 15 will just take their place. Moving on to race number 6, I went with the 10 Tiesto on top in this $81,000 allowance for a 3-year-old. It's going 1 1/8 miles on the turf. Tiesto is out of Tiz now, and we last saw him at the Palm Beach at Gulfstream in February, where he was the runner-up to a good horse, Vitalogy, who's also the name of a good Pro Jam album.
Yes,
he's worked consistently through the layoff, and for trainer Belmont's not known for working his horses too hard. So if you look at the workout tab, they don't always jump out at you, but on race day, this horse always shows up. Joel Rosario's in the irons, and I look for him making a late run to take this one down. I'm sorry, I jumped right to race 6. Do you want me to go through the full pick 4, or do you want me to?
Yes, no, go all through. Yes, go through all of them.
In addition to Tiesto here, we're going to use the 10, Let Me Know. Another alternate entry, 17, Man in the Can. And followed by 13, another alternate entry.
Wasn't that our story about you, Marco, last week?
Oh, yeah.
the 11 tabled, and the 6 noble order. So we went 6 deep here if the alternate entries draw in. Moving on to race 7, we just talked about the winning color stakes, and as I said, I am singling Mia Mischief in there. I hope Marco's wrong, but I have a bad feeling that 2 could do exactly what he says. We're closing out this pick 4 with race number 8. This is the middle pick 4, guys. There are 3 pick 4s on the card tomorrow, Churchill. It's a maiden special weight going a mile and 16th on the dirt for 3-year-olds and up. My top choice in here is Asham. It's a Todd Pletcher trainee who took over training of this colt. It's a Tappan colt when Kieran McLaughlin gave up training duties to be a full-time jockey agent for Luis Saez. He was a hard-charging second in his first start for Pletcher back in April at Gulfstream, and he has worked fast recently. They're putting the blinkers on tomorrow, so he should be able to run down the tiring horses in the stretch given the breeding that he's got. I also used the 3 in here, Mao Mao, the 8 Oceanic, the 7 Bear Alley, and the final ticket horse I add on to my ticket here is the 11 Militarist. So my ticket ends up being 6, 4, 5, 12, and possibly 15 with 10, 2, possibly 17, 13, 11, and 6 with the 8, with the 9, 3, 8, 7, 11. That ticket's $40 without those 3 alternate entries. If all 3 alternate entries draw in and none of the other horses scratch, it ends up being a $75 ticket, which in my opinion is on the high end for a pick 4 play. But like I said, check the Twitter feed tomorrow. I'll let you know exactly how it plays out.
Yeah, and I'll jump in for a second here and say that, I'm going to have a little larger ticket too. Given the card tomorrow at Churchill, there's going to be a lot of money bet at Churchill tomorrow. And given the maiden races, it's tougher for everybody handicapping. It is worth putting more money into exotics when you have races that have the potential for high paydays. You want to get that coverage, and if you're going to have an inflated pool, that's always a situation where it's plus EV to actually spend a little more money. Jeff, head to your pick 4. Before we do, we made fun of a couple of the names there. We giggled at. Is there any horse off the top of your head that you can think of in your race calling days that the first time you saw the name in the program, it made you chuckle or you said, what were they thinking?
Well, I think the best one was at the Meadows years ago. There was a horse named Oliver, Oliver, like Oliver Twist, Oliver Closeoff, and the trainer purposely put a female driver on the horse when he knew the horse was in a spot to win, just so the track announcer, well, not me at the time, it was Roger Houston, could yell that driver's name with Oliver Closeoff at the top of the stretch. So that was a classic story there from about that's probably going back about 15, 20 years now at this point, maybe a little more, but that was probably about the best one I'd say.
That's good. We didn't even set that one up, and you pulled that one right out of thin air. So that's pretty good. Pull us out of pick 4 out of that head now.
I did last week, but I will say this, and of course it's still early, anything could change, but the good news for the people tuning in is that the weather tomorrow in Kentucky looks to be good. So I don't know that we're going to be seeing any of these also eligibles moving in, hopefully not, but again, that obviously does confuse, but it's good that we're able to talk about those and get some of those in there. With that said, my picks are strictly for if we're staying where we're supposed to and not see any of these AE horses move in. The first part of that pick 4, the fifth race, the Maiden Claimers, that to me is a grindstone race. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the great thoroughbred grindstone, and I'm not talking about putting your nose to the grindstone and working hard. And I'm talking about taking out a grindstone, sharpening the edges of your darts, putting the race program on the wall and throwing, because that is about what you need to do with this type of a maiden claimer. It is a very, very difficult race. I've always referred to those as dartboard races because you just don't know. Handicapping can give you so much information. I think we're going to talk in a few minutes about maiden races and why they're a little bit more difficult, but I'm going to go for a horse that was in a maiden special last time, and that's the 4, Don't Need a Name. Drops from the maiden special, and what I see is there's a horse that only lost against tougher competition by 7 lengths last time. So to me, I think the drop down in class is enough to make up those 7 lengths, and I think the 4 can get the win. But from there, again, there's a lot of ways that this can go. The 6 Digital Star is going to be one of the top choices. This horse could go out there and win, but I've seen a lot of times with horses that are in maidens, You have a horse that what we call lacks the killer instinct. They're followers. And we'll see horses in harness racing, because harness racing, these horses can get 30, 40 starts a year. I've seen horses that are 0 for 60, 0 for 70 lifetime, because they just want to follow. It's not, nobody's holding the horse back. The horse just doesn't want to pass that last horse, does not understand that it's supposed to. And so just wants to get up there and follow the leader. And so, when you see a horse get up a higher number of starts without getting a win, you start to get concerned. Is this horse just one that lacks the killer instinct? And I am worried about that with the 6 Digital Star. Did pick the horse second, will use the horse on my ticket. The 5 Time Heist, big improvement last time. Poor workout, May 20th has me concerned. Little worried about that. The other 2 numbers I'm using are the 9 and the 12. Mr. Class, the 9, he was bumped in both of his last couple of starts last season. Workouts have been in the slop. So again, a little tougher to read those workouts. So I think he's had some excuses both in his last 2 starts and his last couple of workouts. And then the 12, for better or for worse, this is an enigma here. Here's a horse that drops in class, is a 4-year-old with only 2 lifetime starts. And Marco, you know what it's like to be a horse owner. I do too. If you're paying for a 4-year-old that only has 2 lifetime starts, there's got to be something there. There's got to be some talent there, because that's an awful lot of money that's been incurred over the last 3 years to get this horse trained, to get this horse raced, to keep this horse, to get this horse back. Somebody spent an awful lot of money along the way on this 12 horse. There's got to be something there, and that's the theory I'm using, seeing this horse trying to get onto the ticket. So I'm actually going 5 deep into the first leg of that pick 4. I'm going 4, 6, 5, 9, and 12. Again, pull out your dartboard. There you go. The second leg, I've narrowed it down to 2. I think the race is between the 10 Tiesto and the 11 Tabled. Tiesto's strong effort in a stake last time. I don't like the post on these 2 horses, but hopefully they can get there. The 11 Tabled, no worse than second since moving to the turf. I think that the 10 and the 11 both deserve the look, and I'm going to just go with those 2. We already talked a little bit about the 7th. I liked 4 horses in that race, the 1, 2, 7, and 8. I'm only going with the 2, 7, 8. If you want them in order, 8, 7, 2 is how I like that 8th race, or that 7th race. Mia Mischief, Spice Perfection, and Break Even. And then in the final leg, the 9 horse, Pletcher Trainee, was an $800,000 yearling. This one's got the pedigree. This one's got the trainer. I like the 9 quite a bit, but I am going to back myself up and use the 7 and 4, the 7 Bear Alley. Back to dirt. The last 2 efforts have both looked good. And then the 4, 50 grand. 50 grand is another one of those enigma horses. This is a son of American Pharaoh, $200,000 stud fee. D. Wayne Lucas, formerly one of the best in the business years ago. Of course, he hasn't had quite the success since, but you're still looking at an extremely expensive horse making the first lifetime start. You never know. So I'm going 9, 7, 4 in that last leg. So it's 5 horses in that opening leg. Hopefully I can survive it. Then I've got 2, 3, and 3 after that. It's a $45 play.
All right, in talking about first-time starters and maidens and everything else, Jeff, a lot of times, and I can tell you, Sig and I have talked about this before on the show, why I particularly don't like betting maiden races that often because of the unknown factor. And not only do you have the unknown factor, but you have the agenda factor. And sometimes trainers have agendas going into races, and they want to teach the horse and educate the horse as well. Everybody would love to see horse break out of the gate, get to the front end, wire the field, go to the window, cash a ticket, net. But somewhere along the line, as that horse moves up the class ladder, he's not going to be able to dominate the races unless you're an absolute gorilla. You need to learn to be able to race both ways, have some versatility with the horse. So those first couple starts are so important in building the foundation of that horse. There's a phrase, if you keep sending a horse out of the gate at the beginning, then they become a one-way horse. They become a hothead, and then they're going to fight you if you try to take them off the gate. And that can be worse as far as the racing goes, because the horse is spending energy trying to fight the jockey. So, a lot of times you might tell the jockey in that first start, I know in harness racing, we've done it. Listen, you can win the race, but I would rather you come from behind. I want to teach the horse to sit in a pocket. I want to follow horses and learn to pass the horses. We can always teach the speed later when we need it, but I want the horse to be able to come both ways. And there's also philosophy, at least with me, and anytime I've claimed horses, one of the things I look for, a lot of people want the gate speed and the hot horses and so forth. I want that horse that's a closer, okay, for two reasons. One, that horse is going to last longer, okay, because he is not going pillar to post every start on the front end. You're racing him from behind. You're letting somebody else do some of the work. And maybe, look at me. If I can have somebody else do the workload, hey, go ahead, enjoy yourself. I'll pick up the pieces at the end. And that's what a closer does. But a closer is always also subject to the pace and traffic and everything else. But those horses, and they're always coming at the end. So maybe you're missing and not winning, but you're finishing second and third. And I always have the saying when the purse checks come, if I get two purse checks and they're both for second place money, that equals a win. And I'm happy. So that's some of the pitfalls of handicapping maiden races, or as we like to say, as Jeff liked to say, the dartboard races. Jeff, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, and I look at those races as Ennel races as well, because as a former trainer, I know that I want to try to get my horse better. And sometimes that means changing equipment. You don't always make the right call. So especially with these young horses, you don't know what you've got quite yet. So you might see a horse such as the I think it's Digital Star that we said that's been racing consistently, making money. However, and I'm not saying anything specific to that horse, but I'm saying that type of a horse, this might be the week where the trainer says, okay, we've been making some money with this horse, he's been racing well, but I think he's got more in him. Let's change this. So you might see an equipment change. You might see a different type of shoeing. You might see they may have changed the way they train this horse. They may have taken him a harder workout or a less of a workout or no workout at all. In harness racing, we'll put our horses out in the field for a week and bring them in and race them out of the field. They didn't get trained at all that week because you're trying something a little different to see if it helps the horse. There's no way to really know that stuff. And it's not that anybody's not trying to win or anything like that. You're trying to get your horse better. So I might make an equipment change on my horse, and it's going to go out there and make my horse even better. Or I might take a horse that's been second or third several weeks in a row, make an equipment change, and it goes completely the opposite direction. So now the bettors can yell at me and be mad because my horse who's been second and third every week, now all of a sudden he's seventh. And then next week, all of a sudden, he pops back up and he's second or third again. Well, because I changed things and went back to what I did, whether it was the training methods or the shoeing. So I see these maiden races as experimental. You've got to learn. You've got to figure out whether your horse is good enough to go to that next level, and you're trying to get them to that next level, and that means experimentation. And so you see that a lot, and it's not people saying, oh, I'm going to purposely make this horse finish back. No, you're trying to make the horse better. It doesn't always work.
Absolutely. And another tool that you can use now with these big fields, it's tough. But example last night, as I said at the opening of the show, say I hit both pick fours at Charlestown last night. They're the last leg of that race, and it seems like they try to make the last legs those tougher of the races and so forth. If I have strong opinions in a couple of the other races, I can build a ticket where it gives me the ability to hit the best, play of all. And I joked to you as we went to the last leg of my pick four last night, I said, if I miss this pick four, I'm quitting betting forever. I had the all button in play on the last leg. And as it turned out, the longest price payout, it didn't go off the longest shot on the board, went off like 13-1. But it was a race where the favorite was like a lukewarm 2-1, 5-2, and the highest long shot in the race was under 20-1. That's a wide open race. I hit the all button there because I had a single in the race before and two horses in the race before that, and it still was a cheap ticket with hitting the all button. And by hitting the all button, I hit the highest of the probable pays on that pick four. So I was extremely happy with that. And the second highest ran third in the race. So you can use it as an advantage as well. Let's get to my, did you finish up your pick four?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. We talked so long, I forgot there if you got the last leg in there. I'm going to go race number 5. I'm going 4 deep. Again, we're all in agreement that this is the most wide open of the races. And I'm going with number 6 in this race, as is everybody else. Digital Star. You have to put this horse on top. He's the logical choice. He's 5 of 6 in the money for his career. Second best speed figures in the race. What I also like, where I think he has a little bit of advantage over some of these horses in the race, he raced during the Oaklawn meet. So conditioning-wise, he's got a big leg up on the horses that are coming off the shelf. Now, granted, we look at the workouts in the morning and we see that the horses are getting worse. Jeff, you know from being a trainer and having horses back in the day, I know as having horses, you can train them all you want and train them in sets, whatever you want to do. It is still not race speed, okay? And you can't make a substitute for that. And I think that is what makes this horse the top choice in this race. The second horse that I'm going to talk about in here, and this is my price horse, and this horse is going to get lost on the tote board. Number 10, why, Paul? Why? And if you don't use this horse, you're going to be saying, if he lights him up, why, Marco, didn't you talk me into using this horse? And it's got, the horse has been training extremely well. Look at its 5 workouts. They've been drilling this horse. This horse has been training better than a maiden, okay? And I'm going to go ahead, take it. They're not going to jump on this jockey in this race to bet. It's not a household name. And I think this horse has a big shot to score at a price. And I have him on the ticket. I also have number 12 in this race for better or worse. And then number 4, like everybody else had talked about, don't need, no name. And that closes out my first leg, 6, 10, 12, 4. That is race 5. Moving to race 6, I'm going 4 deep as well. Again, we have a horse on here, number 10, Tiesto. He's the horse to beat. 3 lifetime starts, just 1 start this year, coming back from that February 29th race where he ran a very good second, beaten by only a length. Generally, you're going to see a big improvement on the second start. And this is a turf race, and he's got one of the best turf jockeys in the country. This is the horse to beat on paper. I also put in there number 3, Jurgen. He comes in here from a hot barn. Over the last 30 days, John Sadler trained horses have hit the board at a 58% rate. Jockey switch to Santana, in my opinion, is an improvement from who's been on the horse. So I'm putting that horse in there. And I'll talk about one more horse. This is my big price horse in the race, and that's the 12 horse. And this is simply, he's got to improve by leaps and bounds. But he's in the barn in which he can do so. Michael Maker is just a wizard when it comes to improving turf horses. We've seen it all year in the races, at Gulfstream, horses trained by him that, he's either claimed or switched barns. They've improved. I think this horse has a chance to jump up here. That's my long shot in the race. And I close it out with number 2 in the race is my 4th choice. So 10, 3, 12, 2. Race 7. We've talked about in great detail. No sense to go any deeper there for me. As I said, I'm going with 2 horses in this race. It's a 2-horse race. Number 2 and number 8, Break Even and Mia Mischief. Going to that final race, I went 4 deep. I think this is the second toughest of the 4. And I'd have loved to gone 5 or 6 deep here, but I can't. I went with number 9. I agree with the move to Pletcher, big price horse, coming off a fast closing second last time out at Gulfstream on April 25th. So given the fact that he's already raced twice, and he's been racing at Gulfstream, just like I talked about earlier with the horse coming in from Oaklawn, conditioning-wise, this horse has a big edge on the rest of, the horses that are coming off the bench and so forth with the layoff. So he's the horse to beat. And then I finish out my pick 4 with 8, 3, and 6, going 9, 8, 3, race, race number 8. My ticket is $64. Okay, it is a little bit higher than we normally spend here on the pick fours. Generally, we keep them in between that, $40 to $50 range. But I'm going deeper just because I think there is a big potential for some long shots in this field. Now, I'm going to give you a suggestion if you want, because we've all landed on the same horses in these 3 races, in the pick 4 in a couple of them. I'm going to take a page out of Show-Off's playbook and give you a second one that you can throw out there if you want to put a cheap one and get, the chalk in there. And that would be simply to put race 5, number 6, race 6, number 10, race 7, 2, and 8. All right, that sends you into the last leg. If you want to put the favorite in there that we all agreed on, put the 9 in there, and play the chalk for the 4 things, you could play this ticket for $2. But what I'm saying you could do is take the 6, 10, the 6 in that first leg, 10 in the second leg, 2, 8 in the second leg. And in race 8, you're only multiplying your ticket price by 2, because 1 by 1 by 2 is 2 times whatever you play in that last race. You could go 10 deep and have only a $20 ticket. But I'm saying if you want to just play a $2 ticket and have the chalk, go ahead and do it. That's where I'm at for the pick 4. And guys, we're coming up on the hour here. So I'm not going to give us story time this week. We'll save it for next week and see if we can get Mr. Jeff Zidek back with us, and we can do that one next week, because the story does kind of involve Jeff. It's one. Last week we had my most embarrassing moment in horse racing for the story. Thank you, Jeff. Next week we'll talk about my highlight in my racing career, winning a big stakes race, and Jeff was there and involved in a little story about that race. We'll do that next week. Guys, wrapping up the show, any closing thoughts while we wrap this one up? Sig, I know you've been hot, man. You're having a nice week with your plays.
I didn't talk about last Saturday. Last Saturday we nailed all 3 pick 5s at Churchill, a couple pick 4s. It was over a $3,800 day. That wasn't including the pick 4s that you got from the show. I mean, it was almost a $5,000 day if you played my sheet and you played the pick 4s from the show. On Wednesday, we nailed a $2,800 pick 5, late pick 5 at Tampa. So been running hot here. Get that $299 deal before Sunday, guys. That goes away Sunday.
Yes, and just to tell everybody, last week Jeff hit it twice, you hit it once, I hit it once. If you played everything that we said on the show for the pick 4s, it cost you, what was the investment for our 3 plays? $151. And what did we return for the listeners?
$950.
That's pretty damn good.
2 hours.
Yeah, Jeff, and Jeff, as I was texting him and busted my balls all day about how of his great picks were. You wouldn't even have been looking at the races on Saturday. You'd have been cooking something, Mr. Susie Homemaker, because I get all your pictures. I forced you to handicap last week, so you did all that work, and us, Sig and I, we're just, we're playing degenerates. We're gambling every day, but you went out and played, and it, you should be thanking me for inviting you on the show.
Sig, let me just tell you that I'm ignoring Marco for a minute. Sig, I'm talking to you. Here's the text I got right after the pick 4 ended. My phone lights up. I see Marco. I open it up. It says, "See, you got paid after all."
Yeah, well, last time you did some audio and visual work somewhere.
Don't remind me of that. Yeah, let's just.
It didn't work out.
I think we're out of time. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. So you hit it a couple times. You didn't just hit it. Well, you hit it twice, like you told us on the show. Somehow you hit it a third time too.
Guys, just to jump in here, the thing, Jeff's small ticket last week, that $4 ticket, that's a great way to play and just play it multiple times. I mean, that $4 ticket, you play it 10 times, that would pay you $2,500 for a $40 investment. So if you have the money in your account, you're having a good day, look for those opportunities to capitalize on that.
Good stuff.
It was intended as a backup bet because I thought I had a chance to pick all 4 winners, which I did, but I did not think they were going to pay $237. I really didn't. The wagering last Saturday did not go as I think any of us thought. I know we had the second choice in a couple of legs, the favorite, and then a more long shot, but I did not expect that horse to be a long shot. I didn't expect those other two to be second choices, so the payoff was better than I thought.
Again, when you have a big day of racing and it's the featured track, you're going to get dead money in there, and that inflates the pools. I talk about it in the Kentucky Derby all the time. Wager more money in the Derby because of the example. You could get two stone-cold favorites, run first and second in an exacta, that on a normal day might pay $8 to $10, is going to come back $20, $24 on Derby day just because of the inflated pools. So I can't emphasize that enough. And guys, thanks, Sig. Good luck this week. Once again, Jeff, thanks. I can't wait to hear you calling races again very soon. Please, Governor,
Hopefully.
Open it up. We went green. Pennsylvania goes green next Friday. I'm sorry. Our
Parts.
county.
Parts of it do.
Parts
Okay. Of it do. Yeah.
So hopefully we're racing in a couple weeks at the Meadows. And Sig, we might be on here talking about Sin City Lori one week or whatever, you know?
Maybe we'll get lucky she'll be running on a Friday while we're doing the show.
I'd be a total wreck. You don't want... My trainer will not watch a race with me. Will not watch a race with me. I drive the race for the jockey while the race is going on. You know? And
the horse appreciates that you're not on him.
Yeah, yeah. And when I'm yelling pull and he's not pulling... All right, guys, that's been the Pony Pundits. It's a WagerTalk Media production. We will be back next week. Again, thanking our special guest this week, again, Jeff Zidek, track announcer, and my partner in crime, Sig Las Vegas. You can follow him on Twitter at Sig Las Vegas. And, of course, you know where to find me, Marco in Vegas, or somewhere eating a big bowl of chicken wings. I'll see you guys next